Hello everyone and welcome to our Gem Pursuit. My name is Matthew Weldon and I'm joined in our magical and mysterious quest through the world of antique and vintage jewellery by my trusty co-host Alyce Ketcher. Hello Alyce.
Welcome back everyone.
One of the best places to find unique and special pieces of jewellery is at antiques fairs. At Courtville, they're one of our absolute favourite things and we have visited and exhibited at a lot of them. If you're an antique jewellery lover, they are an absolute must visit, and today we've got all the top tips for both beginners and seasoned collectors alike. Definitely not one to miss. Alyce, let's get started. So first of all, Alyce, there's lots of different types of antique fairs, both in Ireland and abroad, but they're different categories of ones that I would say, and depending on kind of what you're looking for, you might want to attend one or another. What type of fairs generally are you going to come across in the antique jewellery trade?
So firstly, I'd probably try to explain to people what a jewellery fair is, because most people who are listening may have never been to a jewellery fair before.
You're missing out if that's the case.
Definitely. But we attend and showcase at antique fairs because we're antique jewellery specialists. A fair, essentially, is a location that is outside of a shopping experience. So think kind of similar to like a Comic-Con or another kind of indoor festival kind of thing, but it has a lot of different people who work within the jewelry industry, and they showcase in usually booths that have either jewelry on display or have their specialists available to talk to you. So not only would you have, like, for instance, Matthew and I would showcase jewelry, you might also have auction houses that might be there to give their opinions on your pieces of jewelry and give you valuations. You might also have GIA, which is the Gemological Institute of America, might be there to look at your gemstones or teach you more about certification or talk about the education opportunities that they may have. And then you might also have, in certain circumstances, in certain fairs, you might also have specialists who actually do presentations on certain subjects. So it's for those who are really interested in jewelry, whether you're a collector of jewelry, a lover of jewelry, connoisseur, or if you're in the industry itself, it's a great way to kind of see what pricing is like, what tools are available, what certification standards are kind of expected, and what trends are currently happening. So that's essentially what a fair is. And they can usually be a public fair or a trade fair.
Yeah, you really keep your finger on the pulse when you go to a fair. Like the expertise there that you talk about can be quite broad. I know for sure when we go to fairs and we come back, I anyway feel like a totally revitalized and kind of like you've really got up to speed with the latest kind of trends, because you meet people from lots of different places, right? So, and I think anyone who's ever applied here or inquired about work, the best place or the real indicator for me that they have a real interest in antique jewelry is that they've gone to a fair, either, by themselves. Just, I remember myself, I went to the Miami Beach show when I was very young, and then when I was starting off in the business myself, I went to the Las Vegas antique show, which has left an indelible, is that a word? What's the word? You know the word I'm talking about. Impression on me, right?
For many reasons, I'm sure, in Las Vegas, Matthew.
I was only a young lad then, now at least. So, but anyway, no, for the jewelry, right? Another thing though to be cognizant of, if you are thinking, right, I've got an interest in antique jewelry. I mean, and this is broad, this could be antiques as well. And you wanted to go to a fair, right? There's a couple of key differences I think you should take into account as well of the points you've pointed out, because some of those expertises are not at every fair, right? So there's international trade fairs, right? An international trade fair is one where you basically have to be in the industry. You have to be either working in it or training in it or probably studying in it. You'll need to like send in an application. Like, you know, it's not a big application.
They usually require though, like your business card, your business address, a picture of your business. In some cases as well. And then sometimes they vet you and they ask for somebody else that may already be a part of the show to say, yes, they are a part of the industry. So like, if you think, oh yeah, that's okay. I've got a business card that says that I do X, Y, Z.
They specifically say it can't only be a business card.
Yeah. So just to be aware, it's not as easy as being like, oh, okay, well, I've got a business card. They do vet you for certain events that are specifically trade only, to try and keep it as trade as possible.
I mean, and there's reasons for that as well. Like if you're in the trade, you know, you're working in the trade, it is a commercial venture, right? If you're a collector or you want to just, a one-time off, get a piece for yourself, at a trade fair, people are really moving quick. You mightn't get the time or the required expertise because it's definitely dealing in a trade environment. Although I would say anytime I've been there, the people have actually been really kind and generous with their time. But
yes,
it moves at a different pace though.
I mean, the industry itself, we work in a very happy industry. So, you know, with antique jewellery, it's very hard to not be happy. The difference is though, when you're looking at a trade fair, is that we know the trends and we know the specifics behind who our clientele are and what it is that they are, what styles they're looking for within antique jewelry. What is kind of trending here in Ireland is not the same taste as the UK, and what is the trends in the UK is not the same as the US, and what's the trends in the US isn't the same as France, and so on and so forth. So at these international fairs, we cater to our friends across the seas. And we bring things that we know are their clientele, and they bring things that are our clientele. And we then go in there and we buy as we see. We're expected to have the knowledge and expertise to look over the pieces ourselves. The tradespeople aren't going to go, this is this, this, and this. You have to look at that yourself and assess whether or not you want to purchase that. And you have to be careful because sometimes people are trying to move things that they don't want for certain reasons. So you do have to look through things quite carefully to get the things that you want, knowing that sometimes things might need to be repaired or they're not exactly up to the standards that you require for a shop experience. So the trade fairs are different in that perspective. When you're going to a fair that's not a trade fair, the goods will be pristine. The goods will be thought of and sought out for clientele ready for a retail experience. So the two don't correlate in the same way. Presentation isn't the same in a trade fair. A lot of the times in a trade fair, it can be jewellery in plastic, in small plastic bags, and you sift through boxes of jewellery in small plastic bags. Whereas at a retail fair that's open to the public, things will be presented the way that you expect them to be presented in a shop experience, and they will be put in sections like for like with other things that might be sapphires or emeralds, so that you could match it up with a suite of jewelry that you perhaps are searching for. So catered to the audience that they're trying to lure, I would say, the two fairs.
Yeah, I mean, I always just think at the trade fair of two particular people always come to mind, and they're just two dealers that we work with, and their bedside manner mightn't be, you know.
Well, they work some specific dealers, right? The best way that I can explain it to you is they expect you to know what it is that you're buying. So they deal in jewelry. They put things in front of you and you have to probe the questions out of them, right? You're the ones who are giving them the questions. So they won't be answering to you unless you specifically ask the question, right?
Yeah. And again, if you have a passion for jewelry, I've always found at trade fairs people to be super nice, but you just have to probably understand where they're coming from.
Oh,
a bit.
absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. That's a difference between, it'd be the same if you were a realtor and you were selling a property to another realtor. It would be, you kind of know the jargon, you know what to look for, and then you'd ask the questions. Is this, is this, that? And another realtor speaking to another realtor will expect you to ask those questions. And if you didn't ask those questions, they'd expect you to already know the answer to it. So that's what it's like at a trade fair. Whereas if I'm with a client and they're searching for a beautiful piece of jewelry, I'll be explaining, this is an emerald, this is a Colombian emerald, this is the gold that it's set in, these are the carat weights, these are the diamonds, this has a certificate, this does not. Whereas if I'm speaking to a tradesperson, the trade will go, does the emerald have a certificate? What's the origin? It would be, that's the kind of questions that you'd be getting. They wouldn't ask you what the gold was. They would actually look and see the hallmarks themselves. If there was no hallmarks, they might say, has it been tested? What did it test? That's the difference between a trade fair and a retail fair.
Yeah, and naturally by contrast, the retail fair is open to everybody. Typically, you do have to buy a ticket depending on the
location.
Fair, depending on the location. Some might be €2 or €3 to enter. Some might be, I think I've seen them $100 before, €100, pounds, wherever you're based. But they can be. Typically, though, if you are already a client of somewhere, they might send you an invite for it. Now, you will also come across, so you've got your trade fairs and public fairs. That's like one sphere of fairs, right? The other type of thing you might come across within that, there might be trade fairs or public fairs that are just general antiques fairs where you can buy anything. You can buy jewelry, furniture, mirrors, silver, art, porcelains, brass, glass, lots of different things,
anything
right?
That's basically over 100 years old.
Then you've got specialist fairs, which naturally just takes each or one of those specializations, be it art, be it furniture, be it decorative arts, or jewelry. You've got collectors fairs, which again is like a different, it's like a subculture, each of these collectors fairs. There's like coins fairs where people are just like obsessed with coins, vintage cars, stamp fairs, militaria. And again, we do some general antiques fairs and you kind of see bits of this
mixed together,
and it's really interesting, and you kind of see the characters associated with each. It's good fun.
But there is a kind of underlying. It's about. We'll get into this though, about choosing what kind of fairs to go to and what to look for where. But it's really important to kind of understand as the buyer or as the person who wants to learn more about these subjects, what it is that you want to learn, what it is that you want to see. Because I wouldn't just look up for an antique fair and then go there and be like, oh, well, I didn't really want to see a lot of antique furniture. You have to kind of understand because each of these particular fairs will have lists of the exhibitors. And you can look through the exhibitors, look at their websites, look up their names and see kind of what kind of items that they do. And that's a good way to kind of indicate to you which kind of fair that you'd like to go to.
I remember the first antiques fair that I ever went to, right? And this is the first piece of advice I'd give to anyone who was, and I'd love to hear yours actually, because you come from a totally different perspective, I'm sure, right? But I remember I attended the Miami Beach Antique Show when I was 9 years old, right? I think it was 1998.
There you go, everybody.
Basic
now
maths.
you all know who's the age.
That's 35 now. Thank you. And I remember when the show started, I can't remember the building was in. I just remember it was a yellow carpet and we had to get up really early to go to it. And even though we got up really early to stand outside on the first day, there was still heaps of people already there, right? So particularly for a trade show, right? Public show will be a bit different because there tends to be like an opening night, you know, where you're invite only kind of thing. But for a trade show, particularly, I would say make sure you are there well in advance of opening time on the first day. Reason being, of course, people are there. There's lots of really beautiful pieces you can find. There's a few bargains around the place. If you want to get those pieces, you got to be there first, because there's people who are very tuned in who are going to be going. Sometimes these people do that work in twos and threes, and they like go in a team and kind of separate the hall. So you got to get there early. What's one piece of advice, Alyce, that you would give?
It depends on the number one, the fair, but it also depends on who was asking for the advice. So if you're just starting out in the trade and you're not looking to purchase, but you want to go to look, my advice would be to, number one, walk the show, the entire show. And I would walk it basically row by row and have a look at everything. Take down notes. Always bring a notebook with you to take down any kind of questions that you might have or anything that's like kind of stood out to you. Always ask the exhibitor if you can take pictures, if you want pictures. Never just assume that you can take pictures.
That's a good one.
These items belong to people. Sometimes they're very, very collectible, and the person who might be selling them might want to keep it quite exclusive. So they might not want pictures of it all up over Instagram and the internet. And some will be really, really happy for you to take photographs and to show you. But make sure that you ask. It's polite to ask people if you can take pictures before pulling out your camera and just doing so. Never assume you can.
And the reason, I think, to give you an understanding is that there's some people go to shows and they actually take photos of things and try resell them, which is totally fine in the most part. But as you said, some people don't want that. So that's right.
Yeah, some people have a certain clientele that they brought the item for. It's on display so everybody can enjoy it, but it doesn't mean that they want you to take photographs of it. So it's just something to keep in mind. But like I said, continue, walk the show, take down notes, take down booth numbers, because everybody has a number. If there's certain stands that really stick out to you, write down the booth number. And then if you have more than one day there, I would go back to all of the booth numbers that you wrote down that really had an impact on you. And if you're not looking to purchase, but you want to ask some questions, wait until the exhibitor has a free minute and then see if they're willing to give you a bit of their time. And sometimes they can and sometimes they can't, but always be really aware that a lot of these exhibitors are there. They've traveled internationally. They've brought all of their goods there. They're there to do business. So where their time can sometimes be spared to give it to you, sometimes it cannot be. So don't take it personally. Usually these are very, very long days. They're very arduous. And there's a lot of numbers spinning around in people's heads, and there's a lot of jewelry and there's a lot of stuff going on. So where you can get a little bit of time, take a little bit of time, don't take too much, and then move on to the next place and see this kind of way you don't burden them, but you also still are able to get a little bit of information. And then you're also able to then move on and learn from somebody else as well, because everybody in the trade has different perspectives and different things to offer. So that would be for the education kind of part of it. And yours was kind of more like the trade part of it. Yeah, get there early so that you can get the best deals and you can find the best items.
And thing you mentioned as well, like there is talks and things at these shows. So, and you know, you want to check the schedule, know what talks are on, and if you want to go see it. Not all of them will have these, but some of them are really good. I remember I went to a talk at one show and I learned they advised on one tagline or one like line you can use in your marketing, which would be super effective. And I have used that in like so many different things up until now, basically, and I just realized now I better say what it is. And it was at the Las Vegas Antiques Show in 2016, and they said that at that time a good phrase to use was "as unique as you are," or as unique. So, you know, because people are looking for unique pieces, and they said that was a good way to summarize it in a concise way. And that guy's name was Jason Dorsey, actually, who did that. And you know, not so much anymore, but it was a great one I used, especially at the start of the business. The one I would like to, you hit the nail on the head, and this is something I always do on antique shows, is I don't write down the booth number, right?
Because that's why I go with you. Yes, everybody, I'm the little scribbler who just follows Matthew around and writes down all of the booth numbers.
There's a lot of reasons. I think it's more than just that now, in fairness. There's, I mean, it's to do a show, a lot of shows properly. It's a two-man job, basically, right? But
or even more. I mean, you will find like people go to fairs and they have huge teams, and the teams, like, some people will be out looking for certain diamonds, others will be out looking for other certain things, and that's why it's important if you're searching for something in particular that you kind of walk the show to see if you can find it first. And then once you have found the item that you're searching for, to kind of know what the street value is so that you can get yourself a deal.
Know the street value and know the street, like what booth was it? Because you always think to yourself, oh, I'll remember that booth. And then you realize that there's 20 rows that look exactly the same.
It's really important to kind of take down notes just for yourself as well, because a lot of people just always have the same booth number as well. If they always do a certain show, they try to keep their same location so that people can find them again. And it's really effective for those who go to fairs all the time.
The other tip I would give before the show is, again, pretty much it depends on the show, but most of them have a lot of walking. I would dress appropriately. Like runners, like our comfortable shoes.
Smart casual with really good, comfortable walking shoes. You know, you don't want to be wearing high heels. You don't want to be wearing like very hard, need to break in suit shoes. You want to look presentable for sure. And sometimes the convention centers can get really cold. So even if it's hot outside, like in Miami, it can get like freezing in Miami. And you're like, oh my gosh, why did I wear this summer dress? I'm freezing. So like, think of like a corporate event that you have to walk 10 kilometers at. That's what I would say.
You know, and even simple things like, you know, these are things that you always say and you assume, oh, I definitely do that. But then in the heat of battle of the fair,
the heat of battle,
in the jumble of it all, and you're looking at loads of things, numbers flying around your head, as you said, make sure you get proper invoice. Not only from the point of view that is, if you got a really great buy, you want to be able to find the person again, have their details handy.
Well, with that in mind, what can you find at fairs, Matthew?
Oh, what you can find. Well, I would say based on what I'd be looking for, right? What I'm looking for at a fair, I'd always go in with a list of things that we kind of need for the store, right? So, and then I'd kind of tailor it to the different stands that I go look for those particular pieces. What I've always got my eyes open for are things that kind of are genuinely old. That's the first thing I probably look for at a fair. A lot of fairs, even, you know, apart from the really, really exclusive antiques fairs, there's vintage and pieces there that are not 100 years old. But I always go looking for the things that are proper antique, usually mixed in on a stand that really has a bit of everything. And then they have something that's really special mixed in within there. And because they kind of maybe price everything as if it's kind of vintage, not a proper antique rare thing, that's where you can find something special. Giving away all the trade tips here, but you know, that's what we're here for, a gem pursuit listeners. That's what we're here to do. So that's the first thing I would look for. Inspect the item, have your loop, have your diamond gauge if it's a gemstone, ask questions, inquire about provenance. You can find everything. If it's an international show, what I'd be looking for is pieces of Irish interest that have migrated out of Ireland that are, for example, we have this bracelet in stock at the moment, which I acquired at an antiques fair about just under a year ago, maybe. And I went up to a stand, saw this. It's very distinctive. This piece was 1970s or so, retro piece, Irish design by a company called West's, right? I looked at this piece. It's very distinctive, and I said to the guy, "Oh, what's this? What's that piece in the counter there? It looks very nice. Do you mind if I have a look at it?" And he said, "Yeah." He took it out and he goes, "Yeah, it just says West on it. It says no other marks, just says West." And that was how a lot of the West jewelry was marked, right? Especially these. This is quite a big bracelet. They're little diamond bands and stuff. They did hallmark fully, but these ones they put their name on it. So I instantly knew that was West. It's extremely collectible here in Ireland, and they had priced it based on the gold. It was a nice bracelet. I think they had a price, double the gold value, which for a bracelet like that was quite good, right? So I bought it and took it back, and that was an example of something that was very valuable in one market, but which was not attributed properly over there.
Yeah. So like finding treasure is what we do. And that's really what is open at an antique fair. In an antique fair, there is so much to look through. It can be super bamboozling. Now, one thing that will always be on display and will be available at fairs is going to be signed goods. Now, when I say signed goods, I mean like big jewelry houses that everybody knows, whether you're a jewelry enthusiast or not. So things like Cartier are going to be present, as are Van Cleef and Arpels are going to be there, in terms of not the actual company, but I'm talking about vintage and antique pieces or even secondhand pieces of jewelry. Now, on the market at the moment, it's saturated with a lot of jewelry items that have become super popularized by social platforms like TikTok and Instagram, such as the Cartier Love Bangle, the Bottega teardrop earrings, the Van Cleef and Arpels Alhambra necklaces, the Serpenti Bulgari collection, whether it's a watch or necklace. And these are going to be present at antique markets, even though they're not considered antique because they're signed goods. There will be some form of them present. Now, if you're specifically searching for a signed good, there's a couple of things that I would say to you in terms of searching at antique fairs. Number one, there's going to be a standard price for these items. Like the love bangle that you're looking for, if it's well below the price of a Cartier love bangle, the likelihood is that you're not looking at a real Cartier love bangle.
And that poses the question, Alyce. There's not a huge discount in Cartier love bangles when they're pre-loved anyway. There's a big question mark. Even Cartier struggle or possibly can't tell which one is.
No.
So
what I would say to you, if you are going to an antique fair, you're going to get a minimal discount on items like this. Minimal. You want to have the paperwork with the numbers that match the actual item, with the receipts, the box, and all of the papers that come along with it. Most of them are not going to have that information. Okay. And some of them will. And those, those that do have them, I'm not saying that they're not all of them are Cartier love bangles or Alhambras. What I'm saying to you is that you have to do your due diligence when we're looking at pieces like this. There's they're so mass produced, even by the company themselves, by Cartier themselves, that there's so many out there. So yes, of course, some of them have lost their paperwork. Some of them have lost their boxes and screws and the little screwdriver, all these kinds of things. What I would say to you is it worth going to an antique fair to get that item, or is it better to actually go to the source and have the experience, have all of your paperwork for the item, so that perhaps maybe in years to come when you don't want that item anymore, or you are gifting it to somebody else, or you want to sell it on so you can get another piece of jewelry, that you have all of those items that you need to be able to do that. So that would be my number one thing. You can get signed goods. There is a certain value that these goods always command. If you're looking for those items, walk the whole show, get prices on absolutely every single one, and you'll recognize that there's a certain price that these items sit within. Then search for what you're comfortable with. If you're just comfortable with having the box, search for the one with the box at the price that sits within all of the medium prices that you've looked at the show. If you're not comfortable with that and you want to have the paperwork, look for the one that has the paperwork. And again, assess what the median price is from all of the pieces that you've looked at. It's a great way to compare what the market is currently doing when you're at an antique fair. So you can go there, search through, find all of them and find it. It's a long process.
I know. Do you know what I'm thinking though? When I try and do that, and then like I go to the first one, I go, that's exactly what I want. You got to be disciplined in that sense. Like,
yeah, Matthew's like, I just take it. I'm just going to go and love it.
Yeah, master negotiator.
But it's different when you're looking at antique jewelry that's a one-off piece. That's what I'm saying. Like, a one-off piece is different. There is no median. There is no median price. The price is the price that they say on the tin. Whereas a Cartier Love Bangle is going to command a certain price from all of the dealers. You can go to maybe 5 or 6 dealers, figure out what their prices are like at the time, because we know what the prices are currently, but they change.
They change. And yeah, but you have to be disciplined to do it.
Yeah, you do. You do. But you also have to figure out what it is that you're comfortable in having in terms of paperwork, boxes, bags, accessories that come with it, in order for you personally to feel comfortable. So that's what I'd say with the signed goods. Signed goods, I've gone to an antique show before. The one thing I was searching for a very, very long time, and I would say years perhaps, for a pair of Angela Cummings earrings that had the reverse mother of pearl spot earrings that were made by Tiffany & Co. And I could find the black jade ones, I could find the lapis ones, and I'd find them all the time in the different sizes over and over again. But the particular ones that I was searching for, I could never find. But I also noticed that every time that I was searching for them, that the price at the fair, the median price for them, was going up and up and up every year. So I was like sweating, panicking. I'm like, oh, next year they're going to be more. They're going to command more of a price. And then the next year after that, they're more of a higher and higher every time. So when they did become available, like when I could actually find them, I knew what the price should be. I knew that I wanted them, and then it's easier then to go for it then. But you have to. That's one really good thing with me. I'm quite disciplined. I won't go for something that unless I really want it for myself. So I search for it for years sometimes.
I know that. I know that because we've been looking for a certain Hermes scarf for you every time we've gone to Italy to do a show, which we'll talk about. And I think we've found it once, but it was slightly more than market price. But I suppose look, eventually you find it, right? But the thing about what we really do, or what dealers do, is that we know the market price for, say, Angela Cummings earrings. we look at, lots and lots of, we see different pairs of them. And if we find the one that's below market value, that because of, our expertise in that particular area, that we know it's right, we purchase it, then we sell it at the market value to a private client, so they're kind of paying a really keen trade price. That's where we offer value, really. But I think then, there's a few things after the fair that I think I'd probably do as well. The fair, there's like an energy in a fair, right? You're looking at different things. You're kind of, you want to get it because you don't want to leave it behind, or you don't want to lose out on it. And then you're thinking, maybe it's not right as well. So there's lots of things. Anyway, you make your decisions at the fair. I hope you've set a budget or some sort of expectations. I definitely have tried to do that. And then, but after the show,
don't go mad. Sit within what's comfortable, a range which is comfortable, and do not go over it. It's really easy at fairs to get carried away. Matthew's like playing it down, but like you have your eyes bamboozled with goods, right? And they're things that you've never seen before. Sometimes you're like, sure, like I need a diamond glove clip that holds my 2 leather gloves together. Sure, I need that. You don't need that. If you're there searching for something specific and you've got a budget in mind to find that one thing, try and find the one thing. If you find something that is what we call a no-brainer, and it's sitting there winking at you and it's below market, it's priced below market value, you have it, number one, it's something that you personally want, or if you're a dealer, you've got a client in mind, and even if that client didn't go for it, it's still way below market value, like priced at way below market value. No-brainers also should, go into the basket. It's just making sure that you don't talk yourself into everything being a no-brainer. Oh, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. No, it has to be really, can't leave it behind. As Matthew says, think that as Matthew's grandmother said, I think that you're spending your very last penny.
And that's really coming from it if you're buying as a dealer, probably.
Yeah, but even as a collector, I would say that as well, because you won't be upset to have it if you've bought it at a good price and it's something that you have an emotional connection to or reaction to.
Yeah, if you have an emotional connection to it, I think that's definitely one to go for. One other thing, and it reminds you of the Angela Cummings story, right? Buying as if it's your last shilling, absolutely. But there's also a difference between price and value, right? You have to be aware of. I think it's another phrase that I've heard many times growing up is, if it's dear today, it'll be dearer tomorrow. And if it's cheap today, it'll be cheaper tomorrow. And what that means is if something's really good, like really beautiful piece of antique, it's going to seem like a lot, but you can be rest assured that's the thing that's still going to be desirable and sought after tomorrow. But if you have something that seems really, really cheap, now I'm not talking about no-brainers. No-brainer can be a quality item that's just a good price.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about something that's really just cheap jewelry. And go, oh, it's cheap, but look at all the stones in it, look at all the gold. If it's cheap today, it'll probably be cheaper tomorrow. So don't shy away from the big piece. It's got to be right, obviously, but often the best purchases are actually some of the biggest ones you make.
Lastly, for this antique fair episode, we're going to tell you about the antique fair, or where we actually showcase what fairs we're at. Now, this doesn't mean that these are the only fairs to go to. You might be listening and you might be in Australia or New Zealand or Sweden or a number of places around the world. There will be some form of antique fairs where you are. So do look those up and see. The fairs that we go to, number one, they have to have a certain level of security. We have very high value goods, and they need to be protected. So you'll find that most of the fairs that we do will bring some of our very, very best goods, very, very best gemstones, absolutely gorgeous antique pieces that you would have never seen before. And we curate this collection specifically for our fairs when we go. They're always available in our store, but when we go to these fairs, we curate a collection. Now, the fairs that we do currently, locally, we do a fair in Limerick. Our fair in Limerick usually happens, I think, about...
It's actually 5 times a year at the moment.
Yeah, and it's the Hibernian Antiques Fair. We only ever do the Sunday for that particular fair, and that fair is at Limerick Racecourse.
Yes, previously in South Court Hotel, but now in the Limerick Racecourse. Yeah, I mean, that's like a regional fair, you know, for us. I think that's one of our most important ones, actually. It's lots of our clients who are based in Munster or Connacht, which are 2 regions of Ireland, will travel to that one. Our West Leinster as well.
But also Limerick, previous to now, the hurling champions.
Hurling.
Yeah. Is my home county in Ireland originally. So it's dear to my heart. But it's very close also to Clare, which is my second home county in Ireland. So both of those 2 particular areas are very easily accessible to the racecourse. So I love seeing you all there.
And hurling is a national sport of Ireland. It has no relationship to feeling unwell or anything like that. It is a game played, one of the oldest field sports in the world.
Okay, Matthew, we're moving on to the next fair.
Yeah, just to clarify that. Next fair. So
Dublin.
Dublin, we have the Dublin, the IADA Antiques Fair in Dublin, which usually happens in September. We're rejigging the dates at the moment for 2025. That's the showcase of Irish antiques. That's across the board in terms of what you will find there: furniture, silver, art, chandeliers, glass, brass, homewares, mid-century furniture, and of course antique jewellery. You'll also find sculptures. Hope I didn't forget anything there.
No, I mean, you're literally stating everything. But the IADA, which we are a member of, is a completely vetted organisation here in Ireland, which deals specifically in the aging of items and all things antique. So anything antique is usually available at the IADA fair, and it's a great one to come to, even if you're just visiting Dublin, but it's only for 1 weekend. So it kind of goes for, I think, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a staple one in the antique calendar for those who are in Ireland to come and kind of view wonderful antique shops from all over Ireland.
It's very high quality, this show. And the IADA also has a podcast as well, which is called Dealing in the Years, and one to check out as well.
And then our international fairs that we do.
Yeah, I mean, there's other regional Irish ones we do as well. But internationally, we do New York twice a year.
Which is the New York City Jewellery and Watch Show, which usually happens in October, at the end of October.
Which we'll be going to, coming soon, October 2024, end of October. Hope to see you there.
It's the 24th to the 27th. So if you're in town, we'll be in New York then. But we're always in New York for that show in October. And then there's also another show that we do in the spring in New York as well.
Kill Promotions, really exciting new company, and we're delighted to do the Kill Promotions. He's got some really fresh ideas. I think it's a great show, especially like if you're in New York or want to travel to New York and want a really vibrant, remodeled antique show. I definitely think Kill Promotions shows are one to go to.
And they're both held in the Metropolitan Pavilion, which is in Midtown. So it's a really easy one to get to. And again, the locations are super secure. Security usually check you in, they check your bag and they give you a tag and everything like that so that you can come into the show. So it's very secure as well.
Yes. We've got the Miami Beach Antique Show. And It's a trade and a public show, so open to everyone. That's one of the biggest antique jewelry shows in the world. I mean, you'll see all sorts of antique jewelry there. Signed pieces like Alyce talked about, antiques, Georgian, Victorian, ancient jewels, and just pre-loved pieces as well.
I believe the Miami show is the largest antique jewelry show in America. So it is huge in terms of that in comparison to the New York show. The New York show is big, but we're talking massive.
I think there's like 20 rows, and I think each row has like 80 stands.
Yeah, it's huge. And it usually, day one, you walk half the show. Day two, you walk the other half. Day three, you go back to all of your vendors that you saw. So it's huge.
And which is why we're saying, take notes of where you were, what you saw, because it's really, and everyone hires the cabinets from the same people, right? So there's no distinctive physical, landmarks.
And the 2025 show for that one is the 19th to the 13th, which is our next of January, which is our next show in Miami.
So, and again, if you want to attend, you can go onto our website and you can book an appointment with us, and we can often get tickets, free tickets into these shows. And what I would definitely say is you'd want to message us in advance, book an appointment, tell us what you want to see, because we can only bring a selection. And if you get there in early and let us know, we can bring a tailored, curated selection of
with
really
options.
Beautiful European antique jewelry to you. So yeah, with options. So
so I've done we had quite a few appointments last year. We had a lot of people who were looking for 22 carat yellow gold wedding bands, which can be very, very difficult to find in the US. I brought along a huge selection of them, and most of them went, to be honest, because they're one of those things that you can't easily obtain in the US. We had engagement couples who came to us who wanted to look at a range of different old mine cut diamonds. We have a huge selection of them. We always do. We always search and hunt for these particular pieces. 3 stones were really, really hot last year for an engagement ring, but in all different kinds of cuts and sizes, which we brought with us as well. And always the sapphire was always a popular piece that people were looking for, and the flush set Victorian rings.
Yes.
So we get a lot of requests for flush set Victorian rings that can be stacked easily or can be worn just casually every day. If you're looking for something specific, even the really nice old antique chains, if you let us know, we can bring you a really nice selection to choose from. So it's a good tip.
And those fairs, we're absolutely flat out at them. So if you book in advance, we can guarantee an appointment as well. So you won't be waiting. And of course, the Las Vegas Antique Jewelry and Watch Show is another one we exhibit at, which is in the summer. It's usually the last week of May or start of June. And that is a trade only show. And I mean, listen, if you're in the trade, this thing is probably already on your calendar. It's a really big one. It's in the middle of a desert.
This year it's going to be 2025 is going to be June 5th to June 8th. And one thing that I'd say is, it's a really kind of long, it's the furthest we travel for a show currently.
It is.
And we do take some really amazing goods with us. But the JCK show is also on at the same time. So we tend to find that a lot of the trade who are going to the JCK show put aside a day or two for the antique show, and they can find some of their very, very best items. Because you can imagine if you're looking at items that are brand new made today, couture, you're actually paying the prices of today. Whereas if you're looking at antique pieces, you're not paying for the additional labor and taxes that it takes to make something today. So we find a lot of them kind of come over and they're like, need to get their head in the game for antique jewelry because it's just a completely different fish. But if you do go to the JCK show, I would super recommend, because we come over and have a look at you at the JCK show too. It's not usually something that we purchase at, but we love to look at trends and we love to look and see what people are doing creatively, and what the next generation, well, 5 generations from now, will be viewing as antique jewellery, which would be whatever's in the JCCO show today. So we always like to have a look and see what they're doing, but we always suggest, if you're in the trade and you're looking there, come and have a look at the antique pieces. You might be pleasantly surprised.
Thank you for listening, and we really hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any favourite stories or trade shows that you're interested in, or in fact, if you think you might be attending one, we would love to hear from you. You can book an appointment at www.courtville.ie, or you can email us at experts@courtville.ie. Remember, we have notes about what we spoke about with links and anything else you might need in the description area of this podcast. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that follow button. So my thanks to my trusty co-host, Alyce Ketcher. Thank you very much, Alyce.
Thank you.
And of course, our podcast producer, dustpod.io. We'll be back with another magical and mysterious pursuit to the world of antique and vintage jewellery very soon. Until the next time, from me, Matthew Weldon. Chat to you soon.